Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I'm making a Graves jungle guide. This is for patch 13.15 with runes, items and builds. So if you enjoy the content, like and subscribe and let's get into it. To begin with, Fleet is going to be the best rune to take in most circumstances. Both Phase Rush and Dark Harvest just not performing to the same level as they used to, and we really struggle to compete with Fleet at the moment. Fleet also opens up a really good tree with the likes of Triumph, Alacrity and Coup de Grace all being really powerful on Graves. Triumph can, of course, be swapped out with things like Overheal if you're going down the more bruiserish Gordrinker variation, where you can really utilize the max health shield. I believe it is 11% at the moment, which can really help Graves be a bit more durable and have a lot of power in certain circumstances. Tenacity can also be swapped out with Alacrity along with Bloodline if you're going down the more bruiser heavy route as well. Alacrity, however, performs quite nicely on Graves as it allows you to take things like double adaptive shard, so there is a lot of power in that. But yeah, Coup de Grace can be swapped out with Last Stand as well, especially if you're going down the more bruiserish path as well, where you can utilize being on low health a lot more and output a lot more DPS through that. Going on to the secondary tree, a lot of them do function quite well on Graves. He can utilize Magical Footwear and Cosmic to a really powerful standard. Cosmic Insight can be swapped out for Futures Market as well. The likes of Sudden Impact and Eyeball also work quite nicely on Graves if you're looking to get a bit more AD and really go down the lethality route into a very squishy team comp. There are options there, definitely. For the defensive stat shard, you can take health as your main one. Health is usually the most powerful defensive shard after a certain level. It can vary depending on MR and armor, but if you're into very AP heavy comps, then MR, really powerful, into very heavy AD comps. Then I'd honestly recommend considering taking health because of the amount of built-in armor Graves gets from the likes of his E, but armor as a stat shard can still be taken. Lethality and crit options wise, he has lots of power here. This is probably his best core build. I'd recommend taking this most games, especially when you're not looking for being a bruiser. But if you enjoy playing the bruiser playstyle, it definitely has ways it can function. But yeah, lethality crit option wise, you are going to start with either green, red or blue pet. I'd recommend taking green over red, but blue can work if you're looking to be really mobile on the map. Green's tenacity and shield are just really powerful and kind of outweigh the damage which you get, the damage and slow which you get out of red. For boots, Lucidities I'm always going to recommend on most champions. Lucidities are really powerful for the amount of CDR they give and the summoner spell cooldown. However, Zerkers on Graves are also pretty good. They increase your clear speed and have a lot of power there. Mark's really good into AP comps with lots of CC, and I wouldn't recommend going Swifties or Steel Caps considering armor isn't hugely valuable on you unless you're into very heavy AD comps. But yeah, you're mostly looking going Tabis, Steel Caps into lots of auto attackers. Swifties good into lots of slows, but I'd still recommend things like Lucidities and Zerkers, Lucidity Zerkers and Marks as your free core options. For lethality build, for the lethality crit build, you're going to mostly go Youmuu's Collector, Bloodthirster, LDR, Shilbo. This is going to be your standard core. However, you can interchange LDR and Bloodthirster depending on whether they have a lot of tanks and you really value getting that LDR online a lot earlier. Shilbo can also be built before LDR if they don't have any tanks and you just want a lot more durability. Your options, things like Prowler's Claw got buffed recently and it has become a viable option on Graves, especially with the dash. He can get some power out of this item. Edge of Night, a really powerful lethality item. You can opt into going this. If you're going all three, then you can even go something like I want to say Shojin, but it's not Shojin. Axiom Arc, which works with the high amounts of lethality he has. It can get your ult on a low CD, especially if you're looking to really use it off CD. Things like Youmuu's Collector, Prowler Edge into Axiom could be a really good option. You do lack the things like Armor Pen though, so LDR might be something you have to fit in that build. or a Schroeder's Grudge, but into very squishy comps, it can work. More really powerful into heavy AP burst comps. GA can work if you're not looking to go shield bow. RFC kind of good on, kind of like sleeper good on Graves. It's actually a really powerful item as it allows you to get a higher amount of damage from a longer range. So if you're unable to get close because you're just going to get bursted, then RFC is a good option if you're not needing the shield bow and you just want to stay at range. Phantom Dancer can also work as a last slot item, same with Mercurial. All these crit items do work. This is mostly going to be the build option you do go, but the standard core doesn't really it doesn't really go much from this to this, as your options just aren't hugely strong, but they can function. 80% crit, also quite powerful. You can go for 100% crit if you're looking to, if you want to drop boots, but I wouldn't recommend dropping boots unless you're able to work around having a bit less CDR and losing the movement speed, which can be really valuable on Graves, especially because you'll also be losing magical footwear. Moving on to the Bruiser variation, the starter item is mostly going to be the same trend where you are going to go green, red, then blue. You're not really going to go blue most games, but because green is just a really valuable pet to have, it has a lot of value in the shield and tenacity. For boots, lucidities are even more strong in this build because CDR is one of the core identities where you just need a lot of it to really power out as many Qs and stack up your E as quick as possible, as you are losing damage for durability, definitely, and you're going to be looking to apply Cleaver to as many targets as possible. Building up E-stacks, apply Cleaver is, onto targets is the crucial and core identity of this build. Which is where the CDR comes in, definitely. Goredrinker performs better than Triforce. I've seen a decent amount of Triforce Graves, but I'd recommend going Goredrinker if you're going the Bruiser route. You can utilize the whip. You can utilize the stats on this really well as well. The same goes for Triforce, but this is cheaper. You really want the CDR, and it has a lot of power in that. Cleaver is going to be your second option most of the time as well. Cleaver, just a really strong item in general. Has a lot of power at tearing through tanks. Has a lot of power in just being a statistic item as well. Just makes it really strong. Sterix is going to be your third option. With no range penalty, it actually makes this item really good on Graves, especially with the amount of buffs it's received recently, and the price reduction. Just in general, this item is a really good option now. Moving on to the other options, Triforce and Shybreaker can work as mythic slot-ins, but I'd recommend going Goredrinker over both these options. They are just there because they can have functions within the game, and sometimes they can be optimal. But this is, considering you're going to be going your Lethality Assassin build probably 90% of the time, and then maybe this 10 to 20% of the time, you're really only going to see these maybe, I wouldn't even say 1% of those builds would be things like Try and Stride. These items just don't perform to the same level as Gore, so I kind of recommend avoiding them. However, the other options are really, a lot of these do have power on Graves. Shrouders, just a really powerful item, especially if you're getting a lot of Qs out and it has good CDR on it. More no longer has the CDR, which you really desire on the item, but still provides a really powerful magic shield. Death Stance does have CDR and can work as a more durable item. You do lose a bit from being a ranged champion, however, so I would kind of recommend avoiding Death Stance and going along the lines of a GA. Even though you lose out on the CDR, GA is just a really powerful item. The stasis on it has a lot of value, especially within solo queue. Other options include Shojin, which I'd actually recommend as being your 4th or 5th slot-in item. Even though it has a ranged penalty, this item in general is just a really powerful stat stick. So it has a lot of value in that. And then Ravenous Hydra, also a really good option on Graves. He can really utilize the cleave on it. He can also really utilize the just a high level of AD and the CDR on the item as well. You can also utilize the vamp, so in general the item just has a lot of power there. Overall, lots of options for Bruiser Graves, as he really just wants to go down the path of having a lot of CDR. However, if you can't really find that level of CDR because your build kind of takes you in a different direction, things like Randuins, Spirits, can function well on this build, especially if you're getting a lot of Vamp and you're really valuing the Spirits for the shielding. But that is definitely an option. If you're going down this kind of core and then you're going something like a Spirits, you can then also sometimes slot in a Gargoyles even, if you're really looking to be quite tanky. However, then you're losing a lot of DPS, and that can be quite detrimental. But of course, if you are like the secondary, or like if you're even primary tank of the team, then it is definitely an option you can go. Especially if you're picking up a pot of Iron Elixir, then that is kind of a route that is there. But overall, this is going to be your standard core, Lethality crit. Bruiser options do work. But yeah, overall, the champ is in a really good spot at the moment, and I definitely recommend playing it. So yeah, if you enjoy the content, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.